What's up, player?
Hey, it's been a while.
Yeah,
It's been a hot minute here.
yeah. We did the record store day, and then we worked a lot.
Got all of our listens in from Record Store Day.
We did. So we're gonna talk about a big surprise,
We got
shocker,
we got
spoilers.
some good stuff today.
Yeah, we're talking about those records, those sweet records.
Records on records on records.
Yeah. We've been going Jones a little bit. Armando went on a trip, so there's been no auctions. And then he just posted the other day. He said it's going to be 111 degrees in Portland on Sunday.
Yeah, that sounds miserable.
So my question is when did Portland get so close to the surface of the sun?
It's like they're in California.
Yeah. So if for some reason you live in Portland,
We're sorry.
Be safe this weekend.
Yeah. Oh, mama, I'm in fear for my life from the long arm of the law.
Hello. Welcome to the Just One More Record podcast. We are coming to you, not live, from the Roadhouse. And with me, as always, is the guy who has better moves than Jaeger, the man that Adam Levine actually wrote the song Sugar about, Aaron Rohde.
That's a very little known fact.
Yeah, he doesn't. Adam Levine doesn't like to talk about his obsession with you.
Shout out to Adam.
Yeah, because he's a fan of the show. We know that for a fact. So we mentioned Record Store Day. Did you make it through all your purchases and listen to all of them?
I did. I did at least one run through of all of them.
Did you have anything that jumped out that was way better than you expected, or anything that just
Honestly,
absolutely missed the mark?
That Styx album that I got was much better than expected. I have not been a fan of Styx newer releases as far as their singles, but the two that are on that one they hit different than some of the newer ones.
So correct me if I'm wrong, because I did not pick this up. This was partially live.
Correct. So the A side was two new songs that have not been released yet. I think they're coming from the new album that's coming that they're working on. And then the B side was four live songs, and it was kind of the classics. So Mr. Roboto was on there, Renegade as the finisher of the album. I don't remember the two others off the top of my
So
head.
my question for you, I when I was in high school, mind you, I just turned 40. I had a little bit of a thing with Styx where I got kind of into them, and I actually saw them at one of our local county fairs. And around that time, they had sold, the owner of the song, Mr. Roboto, had sold the song to Volkswagen for commercials. Mm-hmm. That would be, I believe, I want to say Dennis DeYoung.
I think so.
There's a guitarist. The two guitarists are in the band, but the guy, original keyboardist, he does not play with Styx anymore because they had a feud. And I believe he's the one that did the whole, was it Kilroy Was Here album, mm-hmm. which Mr. Roboto was on. Mm-hmm. And so they couldn't play that song, that full song, when I saw them in concert.
Right.
So they had recently, at that point, released a different album. And they said prior to playing it, they said, keep a lookout for a classic song in the middle of the song. And then they went into a medley where they played Mr. Roboto. So my question for you...
Which is kind of awesome.
Yeah, it was. And it's a great song. Mm-hmm. Probably the only good song on that album.
Yeah, right.
But my question for you, did they play the whole song on the record?
Yeah, so they played the whole song. It's actually a recording from a 2019 show in Boston. So I don't know if things have run its course with Volkswagen owning the rights of it. But yeah, it was the whole song.
Yeah, I imagine that's probably what it was. They probably got the rights for everything for a couple of years or whatever it was. So
they actually sounded better live than I anticipated.
Yeah, when I saw them, they had, I haven't kept up on Styx, admittedly. When I saw them, they had a different guy that was a little bit younger. He had kind of short black hair. I mean, I would probably put him in his 40s at that point. And he was playing with them, and he actually really put on a good show. He was jumping over the keyboard and stuff when he was playing, and it was spinning. And,
man, I wish music was still like that.
Yeah, he did a good job, and he sounded just like when they played Come Sail Away, he sounded exactly like the original version. So he does a good job.
Yeah. So that one was a good one for me. One that disappointed me a little bit at first was the Notorious B.I.G. album that I picked up.
And this is the one where they take his old songs,
Mm-hmm.
they have modern rappers or musicians
Right.
that add verses to it.
Right. And I was just at the record store 20 minutes ago, and they still have a bunch of copies of this, which I was kind of shocked about.
Yeah, I was there a few days ago, and that was one of the things I noticed. They had quite a few copies of it.
They had that one and a lot of 21 Pilots left.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of 21 Pilots.
Yeah, I'm not either. But at first listen to this one, it was a little too gangster rap, hardcore stuff for me. I played it again, and I like everything of the album except for the first side. And it's a 2 LP set. So 3 of the 4 sides were pretty good for me.
So was it just the people that they chose to sing with him?
Yeah, I think it just didn't mesh as well. They have an Eminem song with like Mary J. Blige, and I don't think the two of them really mesh.
Mary J.
all that
Blige
well.
doing anything anymore?
I don't think so.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. When she was in her prime, I thought she was great.
She's a fantastic singer. She's very talented.
Very, very talented. But Eminem and her, that seems like an odd combination.
Yeah, I didn't listen to the single that came with that album yet, now that I think of it, so I'll have to do that.
Did it come with like a little 7-inch?
Yeah, it came a little 7-inch. So one of them is black vinyl with red swirl, and one is red with black swirl. And then I think the 7-inch is on red vinyl, if I'm not mistaken.
So what I'm hearing is Biggie's estate is doing good things with at least
Doing
the
well.
color of the
Yes.
vinyl.
Yeah, it looks sexy for sure.
Yeah, because I sent Aaron, when I was there, a picture of, it looked like a 12-inch single of Biggie's Hypnotizer, and it was on black and orange.
Mm-hmm.
And
I was tempted to pick it up today just for that fact.
Yeah, it was like $14, something
Mm-hmm.
like that.
The other one that I really liked was that Jim Croce single, or double single, I guess. That was really good. I wish it didn't play at 45 RPM, just because I don't like moving the belt back and forth, because it's getting a little stretched out at this point.
So just a reminder, if you have a U-turn table, they have, obviously the manual switching of the belts for the speeds, but a little trick I learned from looking on the internet was people frequently buy 2 belts, and then they throw one in the freezer, and the cold shrinks it down. And interestingly, too, when you watch on their website, they tell you to switch the belt while the motor's spinning.
Mm-hmm.
Which, of course, the video makes it look very easy.
It's not.
I've yet to try it.
It's not easy because I tried.
Also, side notes, I had a couple extra belts. I tried some other things out. I tried tying one in a knot to make it tighter. That does not sit well on the table, and it pops off almost instantly.
Mm-hmm.
I also tried twisting the belt one time. That also did not work well.
Interesting.
So I think we love U-turn.
Absolutely.
Can't say anything bad about it, but they need to improve the belt a little bit.
Yeah, I would agree. At least the replacements are affordable.
Correct. They're not bad. Otherwise, the other thing I was thinking, if they sold a separate spacer to put around your platter to make the belt tighter, I would buy that.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, because there's nothing it's going to hit.
Right.
But what do I know?
Just some suggestions.
Just some suggestions for you,
Did I get? I got 5, I think. The Linkin Park was good.
Well, how about the Rage? You bought Rage, didn't you?
I did. It was a really, really good live album.
Yeah,
I'm not huge into live albums. I know I've said that in the past, but
Aaron was hesitant about buying this Rage Against the Machine live album, and one of the gentlemen, Brandon, that we were in line was like, "It's a great album."
And if it was one that they only had probably 3 or 4 copies of, I probably wouldn't have bought it, so somebody else could have it. But they had quite a few copies. They probably had 10 or 12, maybe even 15 copies of it.
They're a big band.
Yeah, I didn't feel bad picking that up, and it was good.
Yeah.
Good.
I don't know a ton about them, but the few songs I've heard were great. Was it Zach Del? I can't think of his name.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Yeah, I think he wasn't in the band for a while. And then they put out some bad albums.
Mm-hmm. The only album I had of theirs was The Battle for
Los Angeles.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah,
which I think is probably their most well-known one.
right. There's two of them that there's one with like looks like a hockey player on the cover.
Mm-hmm.
Like that one's popular. I don't think that's the best. Yeah, listen to
The
us.
Battle for LA has the guy kind of doing the Black Power kind of pose, for lack of a better term, on the cover.
Yeah. So me, I bought several records as well.
That doesn't sound like you at all.
No, no. Needless to say, I had to agree to take a little bit of a break with my wife. She was getting a little bit of frustrated with my copious amounts of record purchasing. So I'm, with the exception of record store days, I'm on a little bit of a minimalist spending schedule for a while.
2 more weeks for the next one.
Yes, yes. So one of my favorites that I got was actually Elton John's Regimental Sergeant Zippo. So this album intrigued me for any number of reasons because it came out in the 60s. I want to say recorded in 68, was to be released in 69. And for the life of me, I was like, why the heck would Elton John's record get put on the shelf and scrapped?
Mm-hmm.
When you look at the cover, it's very much like Beatles Sgt. Pepper looking with the color scheme. He's got a handlebar mustache on the front, which I'm sure was very in vogue at the time. And I was expecting almost a heavily Beatles-influenced album.
And the one song that you had sent me that was released prior to this,
the title track,
had a very Beatles feel to it.
So what my understanding of this album is, and of course, if I am wrong, feel free to send us an email at onemorerecordpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Facebook. There's a link on that page. Otherwise, you can message us on Twitter at One More Record Podcast on Twitter. We'd love to hear from you. But my understanding, this was to be his debut album, and then it got scrapped, and they built a whole new album. Now, Elton, from my understanding, doesn't write alone, really. Like, he always had writing partners. His most notable one, his name escapes me, but was known for working with Elton on pretty much all of his major hits in the 60s and 70s. So my guess would be this was a record label going, yeah, this isn't good, type of a thing, but it's great. So if you happen to head out to a record store and you see a copy of this, I really would recommend buying it. It's great. Definitely a Beatles influence through it, but he makes it his own.
And as he does with everything.
Right. It's a complete album. I mean, you listen to the whole album, nothing feels out of place, nothing feels weird, nothing feels like filler. I loved every minute of it, honestly. And I can't say I'm going to listen to it constantly, but I'll definitely put it in the regular rotation, and I would say it's just as good as any of his other albums.
And it's one of those things that we may not see again for a long time, unless it gets a re-release somewhere down the road.
Right, and I'm assuming it probably will, but it probably will have a different cover, or because record store day stuff they try to keep kind of special,
exclusive. Yeah.
Right. So the other one was Prince's Truth. That one I had a lot of high hopes for because Prince is wonderful. This was a nearly all acoustic, like real instruments, very little synthetic instruments in the background, very raw and emotional from what little bit I had listened to it prior to coming into this.
Which is very not Prince-like.
Correct. Sorry, I'm still fighting a little bit of a cold or something. And it was released as a companion album to one of his other albums, and it wasn't great. Like, it wasn't awful. Musically, it was solid the whole way through, but every now and then he starts yelling weird stuff, and I'm like, it kind of took me out of it.
And those of you who know us and our musical tastes, we're not a big fan of the screaming and the yelling, and
it just felt out of place.
Yeah,
when he did that. So that was a little disappointing. I'm not going to get rid of it. I like Prince enough. And in Aaron, I've talked many times about how there's a certain group of artists that have phenomenal songs, but they do not put together a solid album. Like
Queen being one of them.
Queen being one of them. I think David Bowie to a point is kind of like that as well.
I could see that.
Yeah.
With the exception of Ziggy Stardust.
Ziggy Stardust is pretty solid the whole way through. So the Ella Fitzgerald single where it had 2 tracks. It's called like the original grooves. So basically, if you imagine like a swirl pattern, as records are, it was two separate tracks swirled next to each other, and depending on where the needle hit the record, you would get a different version of the song. And I'm pretty meticulous. I don't hand drop my needle. I use my lever to lower it down because I don't think I have steady hands. I don't know that I've heard a different version of the song, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna pass final verdict on that as being kind of a gimmick.
I was wondering how that one was going to turn out.
Ella Fitzgerald's amazing. I love Ella. There's nothing against her. The audio quality of it's great, but the groove feature wasn't
You
that.
don't notice.
Yeah, it wasn't that impressive. So that Golden Gate, that my last minute as we were walking out, it was, I think it was Golden Gate. It was the soul singers from the Philadelphia area playing a concert over in San Francisco in the 70s. That was an impulse buy at the end.
I think I may have influenced that a little bit.
That was freaking great. It's got like the OJs on it. It's got all these really great people on it.
I was glad that you walked out with that one because I figured you would really enjoy that.
That was good. I certainly don't regret buying it. And then I also got Tommy Bolin's Energy 2. So I played a little bit of that for Aaron because if you're a fan of the show, you remember I gave him a copy of Tommy Bolin's teaser. I didn't own any Tommy Bolin at this point, but I'd listened to it. It was very different. Like the one side of it was almost laid back. I think the first song kicks in with a lot of piano.
Which is not him.
No.
It's not him.
I know. And then the other side, I noticed it had one track, but it was listing it as a full album. So I'm like, oh boy, I'm gonna hear some things on this other
I
side.
think the second side was titled Guitar Solo, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. So I was nearly giddy putting this on the table, and it was a beautiful bright orange too, and it was everything I needed it to be and more.
Which is awesome.
The whole that side is he just hits the whole kind of range of every classic 70s guitar solo you can imagine. It's not the same stuff over and over and over. It's a good 3-4 minutes of this, 3-4 minutes of that. And it sounds like you're listening to a mashup of several different guitar solos.
Which is really cool.
But they transition smoothly. So if you see that, you should definitely buy it if you're a fan of the 70s.
That's one that James walked right past, by the way.
Yes. Yep. It's got kind of a bland cover to it,
It does.
so it wasn't easily spotted. But Aaron grabbed it for
And
me.
I think they only had 2 copies, if I remember correctly.
Right. Foolish other people for not grabbing that CD. So, anyway, those are the only ones that I really felt notable about my purchases.
Yeah.
So
They're not all home runs, that's for sure, but
right.
you take chances on Record Store Day.
You take chances. Absolutely.
All right, what we got next? We're going right into
You got-
bands that may have stuck it out a little too long.
Yeah, but I think you wanted to ask me a question first.
Yes, we got a couple questions. So, I was laying in bed thinking the other night,
Staring at the ceiling as you do.
yeah, 2 questions. First one is a little simpler, I guess. What instrument do you wish you would have tried or wish you were good at? For me, it's the harmonica because I think it's just a cool kind of out there instrument.
So I think the harmonica is an interesting instrument because I think there is nobody who's just okay at the harmonica.
Right.
I think you either suck or you're
really
amazing.
good. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's a little surprising, given that you're the type of music you tend to gravitate for. So the harmonica is a little shocking.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little out there.
That's a tough question for me. Growing up, I really idolized a lot of people like from the 70s. So end all be all was always the guitar for me. And I've owned a few guitars in my day. Tried to learn it myself, and I got good at doing chords and stuff. But bottom line, what failed me was my lack of rhythm. So I could never get good at it. So
that was the opposite. When I tried guitar, I could not get the chords down.
Well, you can imagine because you remember me from nursing school. I was relentless with
Yeah.
it.
Which you kind of have to be.
Yeah, I would sit and do it over, and I could do scales. Like when you hear the, Like I could do that stuff, but I can never piece it together for a song, and so I was never any good at it. So I guess to answer your question, I would have probably liked to have taken some actual guitar lessons.
Mm-hmm. All right, the other one that I think is really interesting and unique is if you could go back any time on the musical spectrum, which band or artist or singer would you like to be in with, be part of the group or part of the posse, and why? And I really don't know what you're going to say with this one. I have an idea of one that you may say.
I think you're going to be surprised about this.
Which is very possible.
Do you want to talk first or want me to go first?
You can go first.
So I got a pretty wide variety of bands that I like. I really love like the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
Mm-hmm.
However, if I was going to pick a band that I would be in, I'm very torn for that question. It would probably be Oasis.
See, and I wouldn't have expected that at all. I thought you were going to say Kiss for sure.
No, I've worn Kiss makeup before. It's not fun.
That's fair.
So I really like What's the Story, Morning Glory, and the 2 albums before that are just absolutely amazing. Now, I don't know that I could have handled doing all the drugs they were doing at the time. Also, on top of it, too, the 2 brothers, Liam and Noel Gallagher, tend to fight a lot. Mm-hmm. And I think they are still feuding to this day, even though Oasis broke up. But I don't know that I would have been down with that. But if I was like a creative equal with them and I had the same amount of sway as them in the band, then I'd want to be with them. But I would not want to be an employee of theirs where I was just a hired gun.
Right.
Now, if I were going to pick a band that I actually wanted to be in, in any form or fashion, maybe Weezer. Because I feel like they would have been open-minded to other ideas.
And I feel like they're a group that you don't hear of feuding very often.
Correct. Yep. And I feel like if Rivers has that vibe to him that if I went up to him, I'm like, hey, can I do this one song on the album? Mm-hmm. And we are on good terms. He'd be like, yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
So, but yeah, guitar and probably that. Otherwise, I would have loved to have been like in the Buddy Holly era, just a solo artist. That would have been fun too.
Yeah. So for me, I have a couple different groups or artists. Just as James, I have a very wide range of musical tastes and varieties that I gravitate toward. One of my favorite artists that I would love to, be around and collaborate with is Chance the Rapper from Chicago. I actually just picked up 2 of his mixtapes, he calls them, from another member of the Second Chance group. So I'm very excited about those.
So would you say that your instrument of choice would be your voice?
As crappy as it is, yes. And I think that's one thing that sets Chance apart too, is he's got such a unique voice. It's almost nasally, but it's not too nasally where it's annoying. So I think he does really well with that, and he's super creative. If I had to pick a band, there are a couple. I would either pick Panic at the Disco, because I think Brendan Urie is also very creative, and he has done shows and songs and things from very different styles as well. Or even Green Day. One of those 2, I think, would be really fun and really
Green Day back in the day when they were doing cocaine and stuff all the time?
Yeah, but they can do all the coke. I don't need that.
You'd probably lose a lot of weight and have a lot of energy.
Right. Yeah, I don't need the drugs, but just to be in the group, around the group, and to be touring like they were would be fantastic.
I think they're maturing a little bit too, presently.
And I don't think they've lost their touch either. I think they still are doing as well now as they were 10 years ago.
Yeah, I have their newest album, and I felt like it's really solid the whole way through, mostly thanks to my boy Butch Walker and his amazing producing.
Yeah, that helps a lot. It goes a long way.
All right, so let's talk about bands that we think maybe stuck around a little too long.
Yeah. There's quite a few of them. One of these may or may not be controversial.
Yeah, we might start a feud.
We'll let you decide which one may be controversial.
Do you want to do every other?
Sure.
We'll trade off. You want to go first?
Yeah. We're going to start right off with the heavy hitter.
The heavy hitter. The big guns.
So for me, and I've never been a huge fan of this group, and like a few of their songs, but Metallica, I think, has stuck it out a little too long. Now, compared to the others that we'll talk about today, they've probably been around for the shortest period of time.
Yeah.
They've been active since 1981. Their band still actually contains two of the four founding members.
One is dead.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I think two of them passed away in the bus crash.
That could be.
I think two of them did.
And then one of their more well-known replacements, I think he came in around the Black Album era.
Yeah, I think so. He's still around. He's
Jason
their guitarist.
Jason Newsted left.
Mm-hmm.
He's off on his own. He was the bassist, I believe.
Right. And apparently one of them, I don't remember who, was fired from Metallica, and he went on to form Megadeth.
Dave Mustaine.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
Megadeth.
Right. Yeah. And I'm not a huge fan of theirs either.
No, Megadeth's awesome. I just don't listen to him.
Right. And I'm not a big thrash metal guy. Yeah. So they are one of the four bands who are credited for creating the thrash metal sound. And to me, they kind of have a cult following where their fans will buy anything that they put out just because it's a Metallica album.
I agree. Just like one of the bands that I'm going to talk about.
Right. And I also think that, one group, one artist can only release so many quote unquote great albums. And they have 10 studio albums to date. And every one of theirs, with the exception of one or two, is called a great metal album, which I don't know if I buy that. The other thing, this is my last point. I guess I got two more. I think the band members are kind of at that age where they are, this is going to sound really bad, but they are almost aging out of being able to produce and write and create that kind of music where it's really angsty like that.
I would agree with you on that. Like, I think Metallica, they're at an age where they've got kids. Most of them have kids, as far as I understand.
Right.
They're established.
You can only stay angry for so long.
Right. They all have, well, not all of them maybe, but most of them have short-ish hair.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my last point is, with the next Record Store Day, I think it's a Record Store Day album anyway, they have asked artists to kind of make a cover version of a song off of their Black album and release it as
which is still one of the highest selling albums.
And release it as a Blacklist album. And I think when you get to that point where you're asking people to cover songs and revamp songs of one of your albums from 30 years ago, I think you've kind of hit the point where you are over the hill, and it may be time to hang it up and stick to best of tours.
Or change course and do a different sound.
And do a kids album.
I think there are kids Metallica versions.
I think there are, but they're scary.
Yeah, no. And again, we're not saying Metallica doesn't have anything else to bring to the table, but what I'm saying is maybe we got to mix it up a little bit, guys.
It's a little played out at this point.
Right. You're not angry anymore. But we love Metallica. We both own Metallica albums.
Maybe you are angry now. We don't know. But yeah, that's just our take.
Yeah, that's just, again, this is all our opinion. If you're a diehard Metallica fan or any of these other bands, it's okay.
Right.
We're not judging you. This is just one perspective.
Right.
So, one of the bands that I want to talk about, I want to say first, I'm ride or die with these guys. So, in high school, all four of my class photos, I was wearing a Kiss t-shirt. Mind you, even it's Kiss. My senior photos, I was dressed nice, but I had a Kiss t-shirt under the clothes.
That's awesome.
Correct. If you would have saw me like freshman year, I probably looked like I was trying to be a metalhead.
That's awesome.
I had like long hair.
Metallica guy.
I had long hair. It was kind of slicked back. I looked a little pissed off and angry. And maybe I was. I don't know.
I think we all were in high school a little bit.
All right, so let's run down some of the facts about Kiss. American rock band formed in 1973 in New York. They are known for their trademark makeup. They have, some of these numbers are maybe a little off because Kiss is very well known for toting their own numbers,
Mhm.
and sometimes they're not always factual. Sometimes they're exaggerated, they're skewed.
It's like that fishing story you tell your uncle every year.
Right. So I did my best to keep these as accurate as possible. And if you're listening, you're a diehard Kiss fan, and you're like, that's not right, again, you can message me and let me know.
Feel free to start a Twitter war with us too.
All right. So they have over 40 studio albums, over 100 million albums sold worldwide, 14 platinum albums, 3 multi-platinum albums, and they've gone gold status 30 times. So that's a pretty notable career.
Yeah, 40 albums is a little excessive to me.
It is, and I will say some of them aren't very good.
I was gonna say when you just, if anybody sticks around in any profession long enough and you produce that much work, some of it's not gonna be good.
Did you watch that video? Because I sent Aaron a text message that said, "Do you want a WTF moment with Kiss?" Did you watch that music video?
I did.
So it's from the album Music from the Elder, and it's A World Without Heroes, and it's painful.
Yeah,
It's absolutely
it really
painful.
was.
So where did they go wrong? So I want to say it was like 1981, 1982, somewhere around there. The band started having a lot of infeuding with the original members. There are some questions on some of the albums prior to this, whether Ace Frehley actually played on all of the tracks, or if they had studio musicians doing it, what Peter Criss, their original drummer, did or did not do. There's so many different opinions, so many different stories about what happened. I can't even begin to get into them. So if you want to look those up, it's a long story. So they've had numerous members over their time, and they've come in and out. Some people, one of them was only on one album, and he developed a really bad hand problem. His hand essentially inflated, and he was unable to play a guitar. And then they brought a guy in to do the tour. And then he ended up being in the band, and then the original two guys came back for the reunion tour, but they were more like employees rather than band members. And then they feuded, and one of them left, and then he would come back later for finishing the tour, and then the other one would leave, and it's more drama than a high school relationship.
Yeah, it's a super messy situation.
Super messy situation. So I think the numerous lineup changes didn't help things. Bottom line, end of the day, Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons, the two original members that are still there, maintained a vice-like grip on the control of the band, assuming the majority of the writing and producing and decision-making, and sickening amount of merchandise from Kiss coffins and all kinds of random things that you can get. Yeah.
Their whole marketing scheme is brilliant and crazy all at the same time.
I've said this for years. Kiss is not a band. They're a business.
Yeah.
So, and then eventually, after getting some replacements on the band, they would take off the makeup. At this point, the original members were, the two guys that left were gone, and they had different guys wearing different makeup, being Vinnie Vincent and Eric Carr, who Eric Carr was a superior drummer in every way, until he eventually would die of cancer. So I don't think that the makeup coming off was necessarily helpful to them, but it was kind of a played out gimmick at that point, kind of a bygone era of thing of the 70s. The original four reunited in 96, and like I said, they broke up again. But one of the things I think almost insulted a lot of the original Kiss fans was when the original lineup reunited and they put the makeup back on. That was great. Everybody loved that. That was awesome. But then when things fell apart and Peter Criss and Ace Frehley left the band again, and they replaced them with Eric Singer and Bruce Kulick, they put them, or not, no, I apologize. It wasn't Bruce Kulick, it was Tommy Thayer. They kept the makeup. Like, Tommy was wearing Ace's makeup and Eric Singer was wearing Peter's makeup. And as a diehard Kiss fan, that was offensive to me.
Yeah, I'm sure that didn't sit well with a lot of Kiss fans.
Yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't good. Then they released their first album with the original four back in 1998 called Psycho Circus. I was jacked about this. It was a circus themed album. They had a 3D music video with it. It really wasn't that good, honestly. They had one halfway decent song. Around that same time, they were released right before the reunion. They had an album called Revenge. It was kind of a metal album. This was before they put the makeup on. That was great. And then they had been working on an album called Carnival of Souls before the original four got back together. And they would release it after the original four were together. Also great. Like they did the heavy stuff well.
Yeah.
But every album since then, including Monsters and their numerous greatest hits albums, just kind of retreading the same water over and over. I'm going to see them later in the summer with a friend who has not seen them. This will be the second time I've seen them on their final tour in like 20 years.
Yeah.
So I hope they actually hang it up this time. I think they will. But I'm like, they came in, they grabbed some cash, and they lived off of nostalgia for a while. And that's awesome.
I think they're still doing that too, though.
Yeah, they're just getting their retirement money.
Yeah.
But bottom line, they haven't really put out a solid album probably since the 90s with Revenge and Carnival of Souls, and I think this is a good thing.
Yeah.
I have a fond place in my heart for them, but I'm over it.
All good things come to an end at some point.
Correct.
Yeah. So the next band that I will talk about is Aerosmith. Admittedly, I don't know a ton about this group, but they've been around since 1970. Steven Tyler's been the front man the entire time. They did many great things. They collaborated with Run DMC. They kind of started the rock rap thing.
Good or bad.
Yeah, right. They branched out into many different things as far as music is concerned. Steven Tyler's iconic just because of the streamers and stuff hanging off of his mic, and I think
it is gigantic mouth.
Yeah, and I think when you are at the point now where you're in your 60s, maybe 70s, still doing that, I think that's a little played out to me.
Yeah, and I don't, I think their last like kind of moment in the sun was when Armageddon came out, and they had that big song off of that because you couldn't walk 5 feet without hearing that on something being played. And let's call it what it was. The Armageddon soundtrack was basically an Aerosmith album.
Yeah, it was.
And then, Amazing and Crazy, which also came out in the 90s off of, I want to say, Get a Grip. Great album. I own it. But I don't think they've put anything good out.
In a long time. Yeah. The other thing, both of these bands that I've talked about have Guitar Hero games dedicated solely to them. I owned both of them. I played both of them a lot. I think once you hit that point where people are making these tributes to you, it's time to hang it up.
Or again, like we said, change course and mix it up. Do something different.
You really can't get much further than that. And then when you go to American Idol, that's a completely different story. And that means your career is just kind of fizzling.
I would agree. So, Aerosmith, thank you for what we've done.
Not to talk any crap about Aerosmith, because I know you've done great things and all that stuff, but it may be time to try some new things.
All right. So this one, probably the grandfathers of needing to hang it up. I'm going to make that bold statement. This might upset some people, but I'm going to say it. The Rolling Stones.
Somebody needed to say it.
These guys are, I want to say, getting close to their 80s.
I think so.
And I read an article the other day that they were going to tour when COVID hit, and they are still planning on doing that.
That's hard on anybody's body, even if you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s. To do that when you're pushing 80, oh man, I don't want to be them. I don't.
So an English rock band formed in London in 1962. To date, they have 30 studio albums, 33 live albums, 29 compilations, 32 box sets, over 240 million worldwide sold. In my opinion, from what I was going through, last great album, 1981.
Which is 40 years ago now.
Yeah. It's called Tattoo You. You want to hear the fun thing about it? It was essentially a collection of songs they recorded in the 70s. Or like, so this was just like let's go dig around in our closet.
Let's see what we've got hidden in the vault somewhere.
Right, and I own this album. It's an absolutely wonderful album, but nothing good since then. So where did they go wrong? Constant touring, kind of living off their nostalgia factor. Where hey, it's the Stones, right? There were the Beatles, and then there were the Stones. If you didn't like the Beatles, you liked the Stones. These guys could do no wrong for so long. Their ticket prices are absolutely insane. I remember like near the front row-ish looking at them when I was a kid in like the late 80s when my aunt was talking. I think she saw them. I want to say it was like $500 for like a floor seat. And that's just got to be
which is
a cash grab.
Insane. To me, if you are an artist, you want anybody from any walk of life to be able to come and see your show. And when you charge that much, especially in that era, that's hard. Yeah. Then you're kind of blocking yourself off to only a certain amount of people.
So, bottom line with the Stones, kind of wrapping things up with them, they're in their 70s, like late 70s, I believe. And they have not put out any substantial content in 4 years. These guys are just living off their nostalgia at this point. All right. Rolling Stones, thank you for what you've done, but it's time.
Yeah. The Stones have always been that band to me that when people talk about them, it just makes me hate them a little more.
I love the Rolling Stones, but their old stuff. Like,
right.
I would never touch any like Keith Richards or any of them solo stuff. No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. All right. So the last band that I'm going to talk about today is a band that both James and I really enjoy. It's Styx. So they've been around since 1972. They did take a couple breaks from 84 to 1990 and from 91 to 95. Now, I think this is a group that may have gotten a little bit of hate in the late 70s, early 80s, and I'm not 100% sure why.
Yeah,
Maybe they were too poppy for some people.
They were, and then Tommy Shaw was doing other things, like he was in the Damn Yankees, I think, with like Ted Nugent and stuff for a while. He was trying some other things out.
With that being said, they've been working on a new album for a few years now, I think. They've released a few singles lately. None of them have really done a whole lot for me, aside from the Record Store Day ones that I've got. When I think Styx, I think, the guitar kind of meshed with the piano and a little bit of the synthetic sound, and the new stuff just isn't that, and it's not hitting the same wavelength as their old stuff did.
I agree.
They've been, the big thing for me with them is that they've been around for, close to 50 years with a few breaks. 50 years doing anything, like I said before, will produce its fair amount of trash. And I think they're at that point now where they don't really know where to go. They're trying to be new school. They're trying to be old school. And it's just...
They're trying to find a way to feel relevant.
Yeah, I think they're trying to mix things up because maybe they know that, their time to hang it up is getting close. If they're going to be touring, I don't want to hear their new stuff. I want to hear Mr. Roboto. I want to hear Grand Illusion and all that
Renegade.
Stuff. Yeah,
Come Sail Away.
I don't need to hear the new fluffy garbage that you're putting out.
All right. This last one. Before I talk about this band,
I think I remember who this one's going to be.
I got kind of mixed feelings. Like, I have such a fond attachment to this band. And we've mentioned them earlier in this podcast. But I don't know, buddy. I don't know. I can't condone what they're doing. All right. It's Queen. English rock group.
Oh, man.
Does that hurt?
Yeah.
You get a headache? Does your heart hurt?
Yeah, a little bit.
Formed in 1970, also in London. Hey, they have 15 studio albums, 10 live albums, 16 compilations. Some very classic, iconic songs, just to name a few. Killer Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody, another one, Bites the Dust. Don't Stop Me Now, We Will Rock You, We Are the Champions.
None of those were on albums with each other. We'll just say that. I think anyway.
Very few of them. It's like we're just gonna sprinkle these amazing songs in a lot of other things.
A lot of other garbage.
Yeah, and I say that Queen is a beautiful band, but they've had some terrible albums. Terrible albums. They wrote the Highlander soundtrack. I don't know if you ever watched that show.
I didn't know they wrote that.
Yeah,
Okay.
with Princes of the Universe.
Mhm.
They used it for I think one of the movies, but mostly the TV series. And then they had a song called "Who Wants to Live Forever."
Mhm.
So they were doing that was like the late '80s or early '80s. I love Highlander, except for the later stuff where it was trash. Unquestionably, one of the greatest bands of all time, and I think a large part of that is due to their founding lead singer, Freddie Mercury.
I don't think we've ever seen a front man of a band like Freddie.
Oh, I'm gonna say this right now, hands down, the greatest frontman in any band ever.
Mm-hmm.
Charismatic, huge range, and let's be honest, he wasn't a good-looking man.
No.
But
Well, he himself kind of said that when he was still around, too.
yeah. But he had such charisma, such personality. He forged such a relationship with the audiences.
Mhm.
And you can't fake that. You can't teach that. The man was a living legend. Tragically lost in 1991 due to complications related to AIDS. I believe it was a type of pneumonia that did him in.
I believe so.
The end of 2004, they released, first of all, after Freddie died, they did release some posthumous albums with some content that they had been working on. And then at the end of 2004, Brian May and Roger Taylor, founding members, announced a tour with Paul Rogers of the band Free and probably more notably the band Bad Company.
Mm-hmm.
They split ways in 2009, stating it was never meant to be a permanent relationship. And it was a mutual thing. They said that they would even consider doing it again in the future.
Mm-hmm.
I never listened to any of the stuff with Paul Rogers, but from what I was told, Paul did not try to emulate Freddie. He made it his own.
And I think that's important if you're going to do that with Kiss, or Queen, sorry. Nobody's Freddie. Nobody's ever gonna be Freddie.
No, gosh, no.
Like,
That's not even possible.
You have to find somehow to make it your own.
Right. And I work with a pretty large Queen fan who loves Freddie.
Mm-hmm.
She loves Paul Rogers. And she loves the current singer that we're about to talk about.
I'm not a fan of the current one at all.
So, after that, Queen met Adam Lambert during the 2011 American Idol season. So, from what I read, I didn't watch it. Queen came on to do like a medley with, I believe it was the 6 finalists that were around at that point. He joined the band shortly after that. And then this person that I work with said that Adam also, she did see him in concert, he does not try to mimic Freddie. He does it his own thing, which I respect him for that.
I'm a little more okay with that.
So Adam is considerably younger than the rest of Queen.
Yeah.
Considerably. He's got some Freddie-ish tendencies with him. You know, he kind of borderlines wearing more feminine things because he's an open gay man.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm fine with that. Obviously, it makes no difference to me.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, he looks awkward when he's with them.
There's got to be like a 40-year age difference.
Adam's younger than me.
I think he's fairly close to my age. He might be in his early 30s.
And I'm not saying he's a bad singer.
Right.
Adam is a wonderful singer. I don't know how he is writing because I can't say I've heard anything he's written.
That'd be like if you threw me up on stage with Aerosmith. It just wouldn't look good. You can't have somebody. They're playing from 2 different generations.
Correct. So where did they go wrong? I mean, losing Freddie wasn't great. I mean, that's not their fault. You know, AIDS is a terrible thing that hopefully someday we cure. Mm-hmm. They haven't really had any notable hits since Freddie's passing.
Right.
Despite with Paul Rogers. To me, it seems like they're living on nostalgia as well. Mm-hmm. Brian Mays, you know, he's been knighted. I believe he's got a doctorate
He's the bassist, right?
Lead guitarist.
Guitarist. Okay.
Made his own guitar when he was a kid. Still has it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Very talented man. I would really like to have seen them, particularly Brian, maybe start a new band after Freddie passed.
Mm-hmm.
He's talented enough.
Yeah.
You know, have his own identity with that. Paul Rogers is talented and he's does his own thing, and I respect him for that. But Adam, sorry, what are you doing, man?
I think he had like a really short-lived solo career before Queen, didn't he?
I think so. I think he had at least one out. We can look it up on Spotify, but honestly, I don't care.
Yeah, right. Right.
So, but dude, do your own thing.
I think, in a way, it's kind of smart of him because he's playing on everybody's nostalgia too. So it's not like he's not making money off of this.
Yeah, I mean, maybe
Which,
I don't know. Maybe he just wants money.
If that's your end game,
yeah,
it's working. But I agree with you that I wouldn't hang my hat on a band that was started 25, 30 years before my time either.
I think I don't like to live in someone else's shadow.
Right.
So
right. And that's kind of what he's doing.
So I'm not saying Adam needs to quit. I'm not saying Brian May needs to quit, but I'm saying Queen needs to quit.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
we need to take the crown and we need to put it on the shelf and say thank you for what you've done.
Yep. Yeah, and never bring it back.
We can show up once in a while, maybe do a Freddie tribute.
Right, which isn't bad.
Yeah. So with the last episode, we did not present Aaron or I with new records because we just probably spent almost $200 on records each that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't regret it.
No, not one bit. Yeah. Yeah.
So we're gonna get back to blind reactions and
Going in blind.
Yeah. So we're gonna get back to that.
All right. So I did get Aaron a copy of Styx Renegade, which he knew about. I knew he'd been looking for it, and I saw it when I was at the exclusive company. All right, but
which now puts them as my most owned group.
Which I'm happy about that. What was your other most owned group?
Weezer and Jimmy Buffett were tied.
So I don't know. Let's have a little fun here. What do you think I got you?
Oh man, you said it's a top 20 album for you.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you said it's a rock album.
I said modern rock album.
I don't know where to go for. Probably a Black Keys.
You were right. It is a Black Keys album.
I kind of figured. I actually almost picked this one up when I was there today.
It's probably good that you did it.
Yeah. So I kind of figured this was coming. I know James is a huge Keys fan. You just completed your Keys collection, didn't you?
I actually found out there's one I'm missing.
Okay.
It's El Camino. I gotta get El Camino for their studio albums, and I'm good.
And the one thing I've been telling James about these is their album covers are also always really cool.
Yeah.
So this one is
Thick
Thick Freakness.
I thought about getting you Delta Cream, but Delta Cream is not indicative of their regular sound. And I didn't
is that the newest one?
Yeah, it's a lot of covers, a lot of the stuff that inspired them. Okay. So I got this for you because for me, this is the Keys sound.
2003 release of Fat Possum Records. I'm excited for this one. I knew it was a matter of time before a Keys album made its way into going in.
I had to pull out something because we're getting back to it. I had to pull out a good album.
There are, some times where James and I talk about music and we both say, oh, we don't know anything about X artist or Y. And, it kind of puts that in the back of your head. Like, oh, maybe that's something that we'll get for each other going forward.
So I don't want to make it sound like this is a metal album, but this is probably also their heaviest, dirtiest sounding album that they had.
I'm good with that.
And you'll get kicked from the gut right when the album starts.
And I'm perfectly fine with that.
Right.
So I've got 2 in the bag for James right now. I'm gonna let him pick one. One is an album that I own. It is a hip hop album. It's a fun hip hop album.
I love the fun hip hop.
And
I struggle when it gets too serious.
Right. And one is more of a country sound. So I will let you pick which one.
A country sound hip hop album?
No. It's a country album.
So what if I don't pick the one that you already have?
You're gonna get both of them eventually. It's just a matter of which one you're gonna get first.
Oh, okay. I just didn't want to set you with a record that you
No.
that you already have.
No.
So you own the one.
Yep.
So is the other one a modern country sound?
Yeah.
Do you own this other one?
He's a modern country artist. I think he is as close as you get to a classic country sound today. It's country rock, if you will.
That's hard.
And I know you struggle with some of the more modern country stuff.
I do. I'm not like Garth Brooks has some classic stuff, but if you throw some of the really modern stuff, that'll kill me.
I did pick up a Garth Brooks album today,
I
which
don't
I'm very
dislike-
excited about.
Like I'll sing. I got friends who.
I almost got the
know
triple
places.
live album that they had.
Apparently, there was a box of his on sale for Prime Day.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know what, buddy? Both sound great. I'm gonna go with the hip hop album.
That's kind of what I thought and kind of what I hoped.
I'm not gonna, I'm going out of my comfort zone. Again,
This is right in your comfort zone.
my comfort zone. This is great. I truthfully didn't expect that this is what it was gonna be. So
I was flipping through, and I've seen this twice, and I already have it, and I go, James needs a little of this in his life.
no, this is right in my wheelhouse. So in my hands, I am looking at this wonderful man
I'm so happy you picked this one.
by the name of DJ Jazzy Jeff.
Yes.
So growing up, my experience with DJ Jazzy Jeff was he was the guy that was always getting thrown out of Will Smith's house in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Mm-hmm.
He always seemed awkward because he was not a good actor.
Mhm.
So he would just show up. He'd say something stupid. Mr. Banks would throw him out the front door. But I do. Then we got Will on the back, giving props to his boy Jazzy Jeff, which I always try to do for Aaron.
Absolutely.
I always try to be Aaron's hype man. He's the DJ and I'm the rapper. Couldn't be a better choice, Aaron. Honestly, I like Will Smith's positive, upbeat attitude, and I love old school stuff. Let's see, 1988. So I would have been 7.
I think this is Will Smith's first album. I think.
I love that he put Jeff on the front.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. And then it says on the bottom, "Nightmare on My Street is not part and has not been embodied in the soundtrack of any Nightmare on Elm Street motion picture. This record is not authorized or licensed or affiliated with Nightmare on Elm Street films, New Line Cinema Corps' Elm Street Venture, or Fourth New Line Heroin Adventure." They must have got sued.
I think they did.
So that I'm gonna look that up. That's gonna be part of my review. We're gonna talk about that.
That's one of my favorite songs on the album too.
Yeah. Is this got the Parents Just Don't Understand on
Yes,
it?
it does.
That's about my extent of my knowledge of early Fresh Prince.
And that's really all you need.
So, good choice.
I'm excited for to see what you say about this one.
Yeah, it should be good. All right. I think that's it.
I think that's all we got.
Yeah.
Unless you want to talk about recent pickups.
We can do that quick. I got a couple things quick. One of which was the Black Keys. James likes Black Keys. That's a big surprise. And my most recent purchase was probably Rubber Factory, which was, I want to say, their second album.
Is that the one with the swirl, the blue and pink swirl?
No, yeah, I did get that. That's Turned Blue. I found a used copy of that, which is their 2014 release. I did get that. No, it's this one where it's kind of a red cover and they're standing there.
Yeah. Yep.
I think this is their second album, I want to say. I only listened to the first side of it so far. Then I got Stone Temple Pilots Core, which pound for pound my favorite Stone Temple Pilots album. I think I could probably get away with only needing to own 2 Stone Temple Pilots albums.
Yeah.
And got the Ghostbusters soundtrack. That was a pick by my kiddo. I got Tommy Bolin's Teaser relatively recently. And then that album that I was talking about earlier from Record Store Day, Golden Gate Grooves, the sound of Philadelphia live in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
And then here's another good one that Aaron listened to a little bit and even liked it. It is In the Aeroplane Over the Sea by the band Neutral Milk Hotel. If you haven't heard of this album, it's great. I believe it was released in 1998. Old friend who I lost contact with bought the CD for me when he was trying to educate me on my heathen ways with music. And I didn't really dig it at the time. And then I saw they re-released it, and an exclusive company had copies of it up on the wall, and I revisited it.
That's one that I would probably buy just based on the album cover.
It looks very
really
70s.
Cool. Yeah, it does.
It looks very 70s.
It does. So for me, I haven't been too crazy since Record Store Day with purchases. I did get 2 Chance the Rapper albums. Acid Rap, which was his first mainstream album that released, and then The Big Day, which was his newest release.
You got those from Cam from the Second Chance
I
record
did, and
group.
made it a very smooth purchase. He shipped them out the next day. He just got them yesterday, so that was good. He did throw a couple fillers in, which I wasn't expecting. One of them is Roger Daltrey's Ride a Rock Horse, which I sent James a picture of the album cover yesterday.
He's a centaur on it.
Yeah, that's a little crazy and out there for me.
Roger Daltrey is the lead singer of The Who, in case you guys don't know that.
Yeah, so that's what I got. Otherwise, I picked up the Beatles Sgt. Pepper.
I saw that. I was gonna
today.
comment on that when I was walking in your place.
I picked that one up. I flipped through all of the Beatles records there, and it was hard to not walk out with a couple. James also did give me the Beatles White Album, which is...
I sold it to him. Let's be fair. Don't make me sound generous.
True. That's a great album. I love that album.
Yeah, for my birthday, my wife got me the White Album with the Escher demos on it. So I didn't need that anymore.
Right. What else did I pick up? And some Garth Brooks. So I walked out of the store today with DJ Jazzy Jeff, a Beatles album, a Garth Brooks album, and then another modern country album. So it was quite the experience at Exco today.
Sgt. Pepper is a must own. I do at some point want to track down a mono copy of it so I can hear the difference.
Yeah, I think that would be really interesting to hear.
We could probably almost do a pretty lengthy segment on just that alone.
Right.
So I think they say Sgt. Pepper and the White Album are the ones that sound very different on mono. Mm-hmm. So I'd love to find a copy of those,
Absolutely.
But I don't want to pay a fortune.
No, definitely not.
All right, guys. So just a reminder, please feel free to check us out at One More Record Podcast on Facebook. We've been getting a lot of likes, and that makes us happy.
We have. Things have been going well for us lately.
So thank you.
Yes,
we appreciate
absolutely.
you. There's a button on the main page there you can hit, and it'll send us an email to the One More Record Podcast at gmail.com. And then I am oftentimes on the One More Record Podcast Twitter page. Admittedly, more recently, I've been on the Facebook a little bit more than the Twitter page, but I've been busy with work, so I apologize about that.
Yeah, if you want to start a Twitter war, hit us up.
Right.
We're down.
We're thinking about starting a Twitter war. We'll talk about that some other time.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so just remember,
there's always more vinyl.
Thank you.